Have you ever wondered why most of your problems feel so heavy? The real reason might be simpler than you think. You care too much about what others think of you. This constant need for approval, this fear of judgment, isn't just a small issue. It's the silent root of your unhappiness. Today, we're diving into The Courage to be Disliked, a powerful book co-written by Japanese philosopher Ichiro Kishimi and author Fumitake Koga. According to them, most of our so-called internal problems are not internal at all. They write, "There is no such thing as a worry that exists in isolation. Behind every worry, there's the shadow of someone else." Think about that for a moment. Even when you feel anxious, unsure, or frustrated, it usually has something to do with how you're seen by others. Kishimi and Koga believe life isn't really as complicated as we make it. Most of the time, we trap ourselves. Their solution? Learn the courage to be disliked. Because real freedom, true emotional freedom, comes when you stop trying to please everyone. It's not about being arrogant. It's about being authentic. They say, you don't lack confidence. You just lack courage. And that includes the courage to be happy. Because happiness is scary too. It means letting go of fear, control, and approval. But once you find this courage, your relationships, your thoughts, and your life become lighter, freer, and far more meaningful. In this video, we'll explore powerful lessons from the book, including the hidden psychology of unhappiness, why chasing validation will always leave you empty, and how to live a life that's truly free on your own terms. Kishimi and Koga present a bold, liberating idea. No matter what your past looks like, no matter the mistakes, trauma, or failures, you still have the power to be happy. The true difference between people who are fulfilled and those who are constantly stuck isn't luck, talent, or privilege. It's the willingness to change. This philosophy is deeply rooted in the teachings of Austrian psychologist Alfred Adler. Adler believed something radically different from Freud or Jung. He said that human beings are not fragmented creatures controlled by random emotions or childhood scars. Instead, each person is a unified whole, body, mind, and spirit, all working together to pursue a single goal. Here's the key insight. Your thoughts, emotions, and actions, whether you realize it or not, are all directed toward a purpose, a goal. And that goal defines not just what you do, but who you are becoming. Kishimi and Koga go a step further. They explain that Adler rejected the idea of fixed personality traits. He believed what we call personality is just a lifestyle, a way of thinking, feeling, and acting that we chose at some point and continue to choose because we believe it serves our goal. For example, someone might say, "I'm just naturally shy." But Adler would ask, what goal does your shyness help you achieve? Let that sink in. They argue that even seemingly negative behaviors, like being antisocial, anxious, or overly aggressive, are strategic. They're not disorders. They're emotional tools we unconsciously develop to avoid pain or gain control. Here's where it gets even more powerful. We don't feel emotions randomly. We generate them to achieve a goal. Let's say someone really wants a job, but just thinking about the interview fills them with anxiety. They say, "If I wasn't so anxious, I'd get the job." But Kishimi and Koga flip the script. They suggest that the anxiety isn't the problem, it's the strategy. The real, hidden goal might not be to get the job at all. It might be to avoid failure, to stay in the comfort zone, to protect their pride. And what better way to avoid risk than to be so overwhelmed with fear that you never show up? This simple but profound idea turns our understanding of emotions upside down. You don't get anxious because life is hard. You choose anxiety to avoid something harder, change. Kishimi and Koga confront a widely accepted belief that trauma defines a person's life. But according to them, that's not true. Not everyone who experiences trauma remains trapped in it. While negative events may shape your perspective, they don't dictate your destiny. In their words, no experience is in itself a cause of our success or failure. We do not suffer from the shock of our experiences, the so-called trauma, but instead we make out of them whatever suits our purposes. We are not determined by our experiences, but the meaning we give them is self-determining. This is a radical shift in thinking. It's not the trauma itself, but how you interpret it, that shapes who you become. So no matter what you've faced, pain, loss, betrayal, you still hold the power to redefine what it means for you. You are not the wound. You are the healer. And that brings us to a deeper question. If happiness is within our control, why would anyone choose to be unhappy? Here's the surprising answer. According to Kishimi and Koga, unhappiness can be a strategy. Yes, you read that right. Some people unconsciously choose unhappiness because it helps them serve a hidden goal. Occasional sadness is human. But chronic unhappiness? That's usually a sign of a deeper issue, a goal that isn't aligned with reality. More often than not, that hidden goal is approval. People who constantly seek validation from parents, teachers, peers, society tend to sacrifice their own inner peace to maintain a likable image. They believe that being seen as good or worthy will lead to happiness. But it never does. Because the more you chase external validation, the more you drift away from who you truly are. And the farther you go from yourself, the more unhappy you become. Real happiness begins the moment you stop asking, "Do they like me?" and start asking, "Do I like the life I'm choosing to live?" Many believe that seeking approval is only human, a natural part of social life. But Kishimi and Koga challenge this belief. They argue that people don't chase approval to become happy. They become happy when they receive approval because it momentarily soothes a deeper insecurity. But why this obsession with being recognized? It often begins in childhood, through a system of reward and punishment. We are taught, be good and you'll be loved. Disobey and you'll be rejected. This programming trains us to attach our self-worth to external validation. Even when approval is gained, it carries a hidden cost. You may earn praise, but lose your freedom, because you're not living for yourself anymore. You're living to meet someone else's expectations. The authors put it bluntly. To live one's life trying to gauge other people's feelings and being worried about how they look at you. To live in such a way that others' wishes are granted. There may indeed be signposts to guide you this way. But it is a very unfree way to live. In other words, the pursuit of approval is not about love, it's about fear. You're not truly seeking connection. You're terrified of being disliked. Until you release this fear, you will always live a borrowed life. Even compliments and praise become chains, subtle forms of control. You start adapting yourself to standards that are not yours. You become a reflection of others' desires, not your own truth. And it gets worse. The harsh reality is this. Approval is impossible to fully achieve. It's fragile, fleeting, dependent on others. And no matter how much you try, someone, somewhere, will still disapprove of you. So what happens then? Most people don't truly let go. Instead, they collapse inward. They internalize the rejection and mask their longing in negative emotions, fear, shame, self-blame. They don't stop seeking approval. They just begin to believe they'll never deserve it. And so they remain stuck, prisoners of an invisible cage they don't even realize they've built. The hunger for approval doesn't just erode your self-worth, it poisons your relationships. Why? Because life becomes a quiet competition. If someone else earns the spotlight, you feel like you've been pushed into the shadows. Their success becomes your failure. This zero-sum thinking turns friends into rivals. Connection dissolves, community breaks. Over time, people start to believe that relationships are based on exchange, not love. They give, but not freely. They expect something in return. And when that return doesn't come, bitterness grows. Resentment creeps in. They don't feel generous. They feel cheated. Because the giving wasn't real. It was a hidden transaction, disguised as kindness. So what's the way out? Kishimi and Koga propose a powerful mental shift. Stop chasing recognition. Start living to contribute. Happy people don't obsess over what others think. Their joy doesn't come from praise. It comes from knowing they're useful. They define that usefulness for themselves. If they believe they're helping, that's enough. They don't need to be admired. Helping becomes a personal joy, a quiet fulfillment. It's not an obligation. It's not about being a good person. It's about alignment with your own values. And here's the liberating truth. You don't need to do anything extraordinary to contribute. Just being present, truly present, can be enough. Your smile, your words, your kindness. Sometimes, your mere existence lightens someone else's load. This realization is a gateway to self-acceptance. You no longer chase perfection, you no longer compete. You celebrate others' success because it no longer feels like a threat. You're not keeping score. You begin to live in the now, not waiting for some grand victory to justify your existence. You find quiet joy in the small ripples you create in the world. No matter how kind, intelligent, or talented you are, someone will still dislike you. That's life. You can't control it, but you can free yourself from its grip. The path to real joy begins the moment you stop fearing disapproval and choose the courage to be disliked. If this message struck a chord with you, if you've ever felt trapped by the need to be liked, then it's time to reclaim your freedom. Let go of the chase and start creating value, not for applause, but for meaning. We're building a space where self-worth doesn't come from others' opinions, but from within. If that's the kind of world you want to live in, subscribe and join us on this path. Like this video if it gave you even one moment of clarity, and share it with someone who's tired of performing for approval. Because the world doesn't need more people pleasers. It needs more people with the courage to be disliked.